Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Penn Engineering Online's admissions webinar. And today we are going to be focusing on our alumni panel. We have a wonderful alumni panel today. And we're going to be focusing on our professional development resources. So really, we have lots of information to share with you today. My name is Jackie Panto. I am the admissions recruitment manager, and I work with prospective students along with the rest of the admissions team on helping them to understand our programs. We help them out with the admissions process, and we kind of guide our prospective students through the application process. Joining me today is Emily Parry. Emily is our Associate Director of Professional Development and Networking. So she's going to be talking about all those great resources. She works with
Can you hear?
Nope. Sorry, everyone. Looks like Jackie's audio went out. So one moment while we try and troubleshoot.
Am I back on?
Yeah, I can hear you now, Jackie.
That's weird. I'm back on. Yeah, sorry about that, everyone. I'm not really sure where it went off, but again, we have a great webinar planned, and we have a great alumni panel with us today. They're going to be talking about their journey, what they were doing before Penn Engineering Online, how the MCIT online program prepared them for a career change, and what they're doing now. So lots of great information. I'm so glad so many of you are with us today. I think it's going to be a great hour. What I just want to do is I just want to go over a couple little webinar housekeeping tips with you. So first off, if you have a question, there is a Q&A section in the Zoom toolbar. What you want to do is use that Q&A section, type out your questions in there, and we have folks behind the scenes that'll be answering those questions right in the Q&A section. We're also going to be answering questions at the end towards the end of the webinar. Our panelists, our alumni panels are going to be answering questions, but your questions, please type in that Q&A section. We'll do our best to get them all answered there. In addition, the webinar is being recorded, so please, you do not need to frantically take notes. You'll be able to watch this webinar again or portions of it, sections of it. So it is being recorded, so no need to worry there. So let's get started. I want to talk to you first about our two programs. We have two degree programs here at Penn Engineering Online. We have our Masters of Computer and Information Technology, and we have our online Masters of Science in Engineering and Data Science program, otherwise known as MCIT Online or MSEDS Online. So real quick, the MCIT Online program, it truly is a one-of-a-kind program. It gives individuals who have no computer science experience, they were not a computer science undergrad, their backgrounds are in all different areas. It gives them an opportunity to go into a master's program, a computer science master's program, and then move on in that field. So we really do have a diverse group of students in this program. It's a 10-course program. There's 6 core courses and 4 electives. And it's the same knowledge conferred as a traditional computer science degree. So it's one of a kind because it's being offered to people with any sort of a background. You don't necessarily need any kind of a computer science background at all. The common denominator for this program, you do need a quantitative background, and you need to be able to show your quantitative ability on your application. And when you go through the website and in the admissions area of our website, we kind of outline all of that for you. Our other degree program is our MSEDS Online program, and this is really for applicants who want to take a deep dive into the area of data science. This is for students that have a computer science background. So typically, you'll hit one of 3 criteria for this program. The first criteria is that you have a computer science undergraduate degree. The second criteria would be maybe you have a minor in computer science, or you took a good amount of computer science courses in your undergrad. And then the third criteria could be that you have a highly quantitative undergraduate degree, something along the lines of math or physics, something along those lines, a highly quantitative undergraduate degree, and you're actually working somewhat in the field. You have coding knowledge, you're working in the field. That would be the third criteria, again, that would make you eligible to apply to this program. Again, it's also a 10-course program. There's 4 courses, there's 6 electives. And the courses that are being offered are the same as our on-campus program. So both of these programs are basically the same programs that are being offered on campus, but they're in an online format that make it a little bit more flexible so that it can fit into your very busy lifestyles, which I'm sure you all have. So that just gives you a kind of like a brief overview of our 2 programs. What I also wanted to talk about briefly is our application process and application details. I'm not going to go into detail on each one of these. What I want to say about our application, our resume, our personal statement, the transcripts, letters of recommendation, if you should decide to submit a GRE or a GMAT score. The one thing that you want to understand is that we review our applications holistically. So every single element of the application is extremely important. And it's important that you make sure that every element is as perfect as it can be and really describes you as an excellent candidate for our programs. So you don't want to slack off on any of those elements. Every single element is important. We read our applications from top to bottom. So you might be a stellar 4.0 student and you think this is an easy piece of cake because I'm a 4.0 student. It is still important that every single element is strong and we look at every element. So we have a wonderful website. It describes each of the elements in our website. Just go into the admissions section and kind of take a deep dive into that admissions section, and we describe each one of these elements. We have a deadline coming up of May 2nd, so it's still not too late. If you haven't started your application, you do have time to start it. The deadline is May 2nd. We will return decisions on June 15th, and then classes start in August. So still plenty of time to finish up those applications or to even get an application started. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it over to Emily, and she is going to talk to you about professional development and networking and what our students go through. So Emily, it's all yours.
Thanks so much, Jackie. So today I want to go through a few ways that I have touch points with our students in Penn Engineering Online, as well as helping you all make connections with employers. I am really excited about chatting with our alumni though. So I'm going to go through these slides relatively quickly. At the end, we're going to send some follow-up links that includes just more information that I touch on here. So yeah, we're just going to talk about our employer connections, different career services events, and the career outcomes for our students who graduate with these degrees. So Penn is a handshake school. Some undergrads, or if you were in previous master's programs, handshake is sort of a household name in the world of career services. Basically what that means is if an employer reaches out to us and says, hey, I want to hire Penn talent, we say, great, please post it on Handshake. This is our internal job board, but it's also very valuable in that students can not only find and apply directly to jobs, but it's also where we have all of our central fairs, employer information sessions, and information about other student outcomes on this website. So Handshake is just a household name in career services, a very simple one-stop shop to make sure that you are finding positions that employers are posting with the university. Other key databases are things like CareerShift and Going Global. If you are someone who is living or working internationally, Going Global is a great resource for understanding if you want to make that international move, some job search and job postings, as well as information about H-1B visa sponsorship. And then CareerShift is just a really valuable database that helps students find different company names and job lists. Overall, as online students, you have access to so many career databases that our on-campus students have as well. These are just a few examples that I wanted to help you realize that you have that same, you're resourced the same way as an on-campus student is in these online programs. Other ways that you can stay connected is we have a really awesome LinkedIn group. So here we have our MCIT online group, but as our data science program is growing, that is another fantastic resource where you all can connect with each other, see where each other is working, and create this beautiful internal network that I think is valued highly, and in my opinion, even more valuable than a traditional student experience, because so many of our students are already working full-time and as a result helping create inroads to those organizations. We also have a really good Slack community at our program. It's nice to see students sharing and connecting. And then there's some professional channels as well, internships, folks who are interested in fintech, entrepreneurship, just to give a few examples. Penn Engineering also has People Grove as one of our service providers. Basically what this is it's a world where alumni and current students can connect with each other for informational interviewing and mentorship. It's a great way to help students find alumni who are willing to give back and chat and have basically raised their hand to say, hey, I'm interested in connecting with current students. We also host a career fair for our students, and this is just a little bit of the highlight from last year. We had 31 employers, and all this is hosted on Handshake. So all of our fairs are virtual. What you do is you join a room and you can either connect with the employer one-on-one in a 10-minute meeting or in a 30-minute session that's more of an information session, get to know you situation. Our students have found a lot of valuable connections in these events. We've also seen some career outcomes come directly from this. Any virtual fair at Penn that is hosted through Penn Engineering Online is hosted to our students. And then any information session where employers come and just may usually do a pitch about their recruiting or interesting tech talks, all of that is available to Penn Engineering Online students. Other events that we host specific to our group is we do something that we call road trips. So last year we traveled to Seattle. We had site visits with Microsoft and Amazon that included social dinners, some gatherings with alumni. It's really fun because we have such a wide span of students joining us from all over the nation and all over the world. We really value our moments where we can get together with our students and see them face to face. So I love these road trips. It's so great to actually meet our students in person. There are also employer information sessions. Anything that is hosted centrally through the University of Pennsylvania and hosted virtually is open to our students. But then I also do a lot of outreach to employers to have a curated list of engagement for our students as well. We try and do interesting alumni spotlights. Obviously, you'll be seeing one today, but other things that try and help with that career exploration part of this whole thing. So, for example, one session I hosted was a data scientist, a product manager, and a software engineer walk into an office. If you are new to tech, or if you're trying to make a transition to tech, hearing from alumni about their experiences in different jobs is a great way to kick off that career exploration. Another thing that I do is skill building workshops. So if you're career changing, you need a new resume. If you're making that next step in your career, you need a new resume. We do a lot of resume talks, a lot of information about LinkedIn, your digital footprint online, your digital brand, how to write a cover letter. Do I need a cover letter? How do I negotiate an offer that's going to be really good for me? All of those skill building sessions are available and curated for our students in this particular group. One thing that I think is really exciting is we always try and reach out to our industry partners in order to help create assets for our students. SPARC is something that is particular to the MCIT Online student cohort. We realize not all of our students can do internships, mainly because most of you are working full-time. So another way that I encourage students to help create assets on your resume is by doing different side projects. SPARC is a partnership where students get together in teams and they work on some sort of technical project. This year, AWS from Amazon is sponsoring, and they're putting together briefs for our students to be working on in teams of 4 over the summer. And at the end, our students get to have a really valuable asset on their resume. And then thanks to Amazon, they each win $500, which is always a great cherry on top. We also have our career outcomes report. So as our students are graduating, I send everyone a survey and I say, hey, what are you doing post-graduation? Did you get a new job? Are you continuing in a certain role? Were you promoted within your position? Are you continuing your education? And basically, I try and find outcomes for all of our graduates in order to inform current students what they can expect when they graduate. This career outcomes report is available online, and we'll be sending that out to you at the end of this presentation. But as you can see, we have top employers hiring our students. Overall, people are moving into technology and reaching the goals that they set by enrolling in the program. So without further ado, I would love to transition into our alumni panel. So I am so honored that these three alumni have found time to chat with us today. I have worked with all of them personally, and it's so great to see them be so successful and reach their goals after graduating from our programs. So we have Iris, Robbie, and Yuhong, who are all going to be chatting with us today. I'm just going to go ahead and start by asking questions, and then if we'll go one by one, and we can all do an intro with that first question. So my first question for all of you is, what were you doing before you joined Penn Engineering Online? What was your undergraduate degree, and what career were you doing beforehand? Robbie, would you mind just saying hi, introducing yourself, and then jumping into that first question?
Absolutely. My name's Robbie Ballard. I live in Birmingham, and I currently work as an information security associate at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Prior to the Penn MCIT program, I was a teacher teaching 5th and 6th grade history and thoroughly loved it. Wanted to do a career change though. After 16 years in teaching, I felt like I was getting a little bit stale, and we've all had that teacher that was just going in to punch the clock every day and, waiting for retirement. And I promised myself I was never going to be that person. And so saw the MCIT program, thought about doing a career change, pursued the MCIT program. And so after 16 years in teaching, decided to make a career pivot. My bachelor's degree is in history, and I also have a Master of Arts in history. My original plan when I was an undergrad was to go to law school, started teaching, fell in love with that, ditched the law school plans, and here we are today.
Thanks so much, Robbie. I always say that the education system really lost out on a gem with you. I'm glad that you were able to transition to tech, but I am sad for the students who didn't get to have you in the classroom. Iris, so would you mind going ahead and taking this question? So do you mind just doing a quick intro? What was your undergraduate degree, and what were you doing before joining Penn Engineering Online?
Hi everyone, my name is Iris and I'm calling from Vancouver, Canada. And right now I'm working as a software engineer at Asana, which is a project management software company. So back in school, I majored in civil and environmental engineering. And before I joined MCIT Online, I was working as an environmental scientist at DHI, which is a water software and engineering consultancy company. So what I did was I was studying and modeling how marine infrastructure developments such as offshore wind farms, like dredging and land reclamation works, how they impacted the marine ecosystem and how we could mitigate them. Yeah.
Thank you. And Yuhong, would you mind just giving a quick intro and letting us know what was your undergraduate degree and what were you doing before Penn Engineering Online?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Yuhong. Currently, I'm working as a software engineer at Bloomberg after I graduated from MCIT. So before that, I worked as an architect full-time. I studied architecture in my undergraduate school. So during back then, I was design hospitals. So it's completely different than what I'm doing right now.
Thank you so much. So obviously everyone on the call can see what we're doing here, right? So we have a teacher, an architect, and someone in environmental engineering. But these students' stories are very representative of who I chat with every day. I see students from all different backgrounds coming into this program and pursuing their degrees in tech. So while it's clear that we chose some folks with obviously very clear different backgrounds, I would say that this is very representative of who comes into my office hours in a weekly exchange. So my next question for the panel is, do you mind telling us what inspired you to join the program? What inspired you to apply and sort of take this next first step in pursuing that next career? Iris, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, sure. So back then at my environmental job, I had to deal with very large environmental data sets, like really large, like hundreds of gigabytes of data. So I taught myself some coding to do some simple data visualization and to automate the repetitive data processing tasks. And as I did more of it, I realized I actually wanted to go deeper and understand like the conceptual frameworks behind software engineering. And I also really wanted to find a structured and academically rigorous program. But at the same time, I didn't want to stop working because what I really wanted to do was to like learn the new knowledge. And as I learn it, apply it into my job. So I found that MCIT online turned out to be perfect because it's catered to people from like various industries, non-software backgrounds, and the lectures are also on demand. So I could watch it at my own time. I can plan my schoolwork around my schedule. And also I read that there's like a really good support system from your peers or TAs, even though everything is online. They are just like, anytime you need help, you could post a question on the forums, on like the Slack channels, and you would get a response really quickly. So, and back then when I started the program, I was in Singapore. So like being able to access Penn's world-class facility and faculty without having to move across the globe was a major factor for me too. So it felt like, yeah, it met all my criteria, and I jumped onto it when I found out about MCIT.
Thank you, and we're so glad you joined us. Yuhong, when we had talked, you also did the program while working full-time. Would you mind just tell us a little bit about your inspiration behind joining the program?
Yeah, sure. So I always know MCIT on campus. It's a very good program with a high reputation, as well as open. And as soon as I find out there is an online version of the same program, teaching the same course with the same teaching staff, same professor, I have no hesitation and sign up and apply for the program. So I'm the first cohort for the MCIT online program. And I like the online program because during that time I was working full time, and I'm not sure if I want to transit into tech completely or if it's the right choice for me. So I think like with the online version, I can still working and explore new options or new opportunities. And as soon as I joined the program and I study more and more deep diver into the tech field, I feel like that's something I can handle. That's something I enjoy. So I made the transition. So I enjoy the program, and also it's a very supportive community with the professors, with TAs, and also students. We talk a lot and feel supportive in the community as well.
Thank you so much. Robbie, what made you want to join the program? And I am going to hedge our conversation a little bit here in that when we had chatted, you shared one particular story of your experience while you were in the program. So I'd love to hear not only the like your inspiration behind joining, but also that experience that you had in the classroom and with some of the diverse backgrounds. I think that that just really resonates with so many experiences that I've heard across our students. So I'd be very grateful if you could share that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the MCIT program really, really appealed to me. I taught math for 7 years before I taught history for 9 years. So I had a quantitative background, but I didn't have the academic background in computer science or information technology. And so the MCIT program was actually the first program that I found that did not require academic prerequisites, that you just had to demonstrate a quantitative background. That really appealed to me. Additionally, if I was going to make a career change and I was going to pursue a degree in computer science, information technology, you know, go big or go home. I wanted to do a program and I wanted to earn a degree that would carry some heft, that would represent this guy is really, you know, he's done a deep dive in this. Another thing that really interested me about the MCIT program was the breadth of course offerings. How wide the course offerings go into the world of computer science and information technology, because I knew I wanted to pivot into this industry, but as far as the specific sector, I didn't really know yet. And so I was hoping that the MCIT program would expose me to a wide array of different areas within the industry, and it definitely did. And on top of that, it wasn't just breadth, but it was also depth. Each of the course offerings, I mean, doing a deep dive in this. And so that was very appealing to me. One of the most appealing things to me, though, also was what you were just alluding to, which was the diverse array of backgrounds. And so that was something that I thought would be really interesting about this program. And initially I was kind of thinking, like, what do I have to offer as far as a diverse perspective, as far as a diverse background? As a white Protestant male, like, I'm not exactly in a minority, you know? And so I was thinking, you know, what do I have to offer with as far as that? And it was in the database administration course I took, 550. And we were building a project. We had to build a project that would query a backend database through a web portal and host it on AWS. And so my group, we were discussing different options for what we could do with the project. And a lot of them were very, 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 very technical. A lot of them were very focused on things within the tech industry. And this was, when we were doing this project, it was the summer of 2020. And this was during the protests following the murder of George Floyd. And so I proposed an idea where we look at protests that were happening throughout America at the time, and then compare the police departments that were responding to those protests with data from the government on which police departments had accepted the most surplus military equipment, and see if there was a correlation with that. And we were able to find a correlation. And it was a really interesting project. It was a really fascinating idea. And I really liked that I was able to offer kind of that humanities perspective on it, as well as fulfilling the requirements of the project. And it turned out to be one of my favorite things that I did throughout the program.
That's fantastic. I like that story because I think that the students in these programs are coming from different backgrounds, and as a result, they're approaching every problem with a whole different lens. And that's what we want to see in the world of work. We want to see employees in the tech industry coming with a different perspective and building technology that's going to impact our world in a way that represents all different kinds of viewpoints. So I really appreciate that story. Thank you so much. So my next question is outside of the curriculum, right? So students can go on, they can see what our courses are, they can see our course descriptions, things like that. Aside from the curriculum, were there any resources that you found particularly helpful for not only your job search, but maybe your career exploration or thinking about your own profession in the future? Any resources that you found really helpful within these programs? Anyone can jump in to start.
Yeah, I can start. So I think middle of 2020 or 2021, but anyway, in the middle of my course, there was this one MCIT student sharing that the career office organized, and that was super inspiring for me. So her name, if I remember, was Angela, and she was sharing about like her process of finding a software engineering internship while she was still studying and like halfway through the program, and some of the strategies that she employed for the interviews. And to me, it was really awesome because she shared really specific tips and the resources that she used. And she was also really transparent about the terms of the offers that she received and how she decided on which offer to accept, which is one of the things I appreciate about the career office, because you get to hear from other people who's been there, done that, and you learn like how to make decisions, how to prepare for interviews. And that was really the turning points, one of the turning points for me in my MCIT career, because like just knowing that as MCIT students, we are capable of achieving and getting some of these most highly sought after jobs in the industry. It was empowering. And there's also this, I remember Emily started this Google Drive where like students can share their resumes, their updated resumes so like every other student can refer to them and craft their own resumes. That was really useful for me too, because it helped me to craft my own resume. My resume was like not getting any responses at the beginning, and after I changed it, I got a lot more responses. Yeah, and yeah, eventually I was.
The resume goes through a crazy evolution from the start to the finish of the program. So yes.
Yeah, it was 180 degree difference. Yeah, and I was eventually able to get a job offer in the middle of my second last semester because of all these resources.
That is fantastic. Obviously you saw the value in the alumni panel, and now you're here being an alumni panelist, full circle. We appreciate it so much. Any other resources that you all found helpful?
Just want to echo what Iris was saying. I found the students, I found my classmates to be one of the most incredible resources. Everybody was so open and so helpful. And as Iris was saying, so very transparent and honest in their discussions and in the trouble that they were having. And that was great to learn from. And then also I'm going to echo what Iris said again. That resume database, holy smokes, that thing is worth its weight in gold. That was so incredibly helpful. So, I mean, yeah, I know we're going to talk more specifically about the Career Center resources, but yeah, just my colleagues, just the classmates, they were incredibly helpful. And that database.
I have found that our students all have this sense of, okay, we're all in the same boat together and we're all trying to pursue these positions. So let's try and be as helpful as possible. And it is very heartwarming to see that. I think some other programs, like sometimes more smaller niche programs, you might see folks who have this sense of competition between them. That is not the sense of MCIT Online students. I feel like we are all pulling each other up as our alumni continue to progress in their careers, as new students are graduating. There does seem to be this really beautiful cycle of helping and altruism within this group that I continue to champion and appreciate so much with our students. Yuhong, did you have any other resources? They don't have to be career related. Did you find anything like TA hours or Slack or like any in particular event helpful to you in thinking about your future career?
Yeah, I feel like the course setup is very helpful for me to grow as a software engineer. So I always get questions from my friends like, I want to transit into career into tech. Should I do a bootcamp or should I do like a real master program? And the answer I always give to them is like, you have to go to a real program like MCIT Online. We have the 6 required course, especially like 593 and 595, where they teach us a computer system. Just give you a holistic review of the whole computer system. Compared to the bootcamp, they will never teach you this. They will teach you like how to build a website, how to do a full stack engineer, but without the basic or fundamental knowledge, it's hard to grow as like a senior or I guess it's more catch up if you get into the software engineering role.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So my next question is all about your job search. So all of you were career changers. You went from something very unrelated to tech into a technical role. Do you mind just walking us through your job search process as a career changer? What did it look like? How did you set yourself up for success? Anything that you can share with students. Iris, obviously you had said whenever we can get specific, it's very helpful for people trying to think about it on their own end. So get granular if you want with it. But yeah, any way that you could talk about what that research process looked for you. Robbie, I'm gonna start with you, mainly because you and I had many meetings, and I personally feel like I had the most front row seat view of your evolution and what your search looked like. So I'd love to hear your perspective.
Absolutely. Holy cow, my job search. That was an endeavor. You know, I'd been in the professional workforce for 16 years. However, during those 16 years, I'd only had 2 jobs. The first one I fell into and you know, took that on. And the second one I was recruited for. So 16 years in the professional workforce, and I had never job searched. So it was a very interesting process. And incredibly terrifying one as well, because as I was beginning this job search, I had also just gotten married. So there's my father-in-law, you know, and it was definitely a process. So that's one of the career center, the career services at Penn are also kind of going back to something that we talked about earlier. One of the main things that interested me in this program, the lifetime access to Penn's career services. Holy cow, that was incredibly attractive to me. And also just knowing that I'm making a really hard career pivot. I knew I was going to need some help. And I mean, Emily's a gall-darn saint. like for the effort, the time, and the energy that she put in, and everybody in the career services department towards helping me with my career search. So I mean, starting off with my resume, it was not a tech-friendly resume. It was a teacher resume, right? And these are very, very different things. And so Emily's help with crafting my resume, knowing what to put on there, and then also, knowing where to send it to, where was going to be reasonable, where was going to be what level of positions I was looking at. That was incredibly helpful too. So living in Birmingham, we're kind of in the shadow of Nashville and Atlanta. So major tech companies, if they're going to set up a branch in the Southeast, it's usually going to be in Nashville or Atlanta, both of which are 2.5 hours away. So it just makes sense to do that. However, Birmingham, as a large city, does have a number of information technology companies and a number of other, there's a large tech scene in Birmingham. But, it took a while for me to figure out what area I wanted to go into. I was taking an information security course at Penn, and this again speaks to the breadth of the program. Our very first assignment had a disclaimer at the top saying if you use anything that you're doing on this assignment for criminal or mischievous or malicious purposes, you could face prosecution. And I was like, sold. This is my industry. This is awesome. This is exciting. And so going into that industry especially, it's a very, very, very tight-knit industry. And so knowing how to work connections that I had, I've been teaching for 16 years. I know a lot of my students' parents personally, and I had no idea how to reach out to them. I had no idea how to leverage that network that I have. I've spent 16 years telling people, no new friends on social media, no new friends on social media. And now I'm being encouraged to use LinkedIn to cold reach out to Penn alumni and to reach out to this network that I have of people within the Birmingham area. And I had no idea how to do that. I remember Emily walking me through, like, here's what you say when you do a cold reach out to a Penn alumni. I mean, pretty much word for word. And that was incredibly helpful. And just asking them, hey, can you take starting a chat with them, and then, hey, can you take a look at my resume? What would you think about this if this came across your desk? And getting honest feedback from that. And that was another really cool thing about the program is the network of Penn alumni. Not even within the, not even graduates of the MCIT program, but just the overall global network of Penn alumni was super, super helpful. And having access to that was absolutely incredible. And so yeah, with my job search, I mean, the Career Services Center helping me, craft how to translate my teaching experience and the skills from that into the industry that I'm going into, and the knowledge of the career services for the Career Services Department for the MCIT program of all of the different industries. I mean, it was incredible. If I were going into data science, they would know exactly, here's how to translate your experience into this field. Going into information security, here's how to translate your experience into this field. And so that was incredibly helpful, walking into an interview and knowing how to answer that question. So what experience do you have in this industry? And saying, well, building up towards that. However, here are the skills that I have. Here are the skills that I have, and here's how they are applicable to this industry, and how, how I can grow and develop and help your organization grow and develop as well. That was incredibly helpful. And then as far as just, again, 16 years in the professional workforce, 0 job search experience, the Career Services Department was incredibly helpful for questions that I had, like, hey, I got an offer. Is it okay for me to reach out to this other place and tell them I got an offer? What's your timeline on moving through this? And getting that kind of reassurance. But also, just having a guide, having a career search guide on this, so that I don't feel like I'm going into this totally blind, so that I don't feel like I'm going into this with, just giving it my best shot and let's see what happens, but knowing that I've got a guide who's saying, okay, let's adjust that, or, saying, that was awesome. What you're talking about there, that's great. And the number of times that I met with Emily, I mean, sometimes just kind of, Emily, what am I doing? What's going on? And other times like, okay, great interview, this, and then Emily being able to say, cool, here's the timeline you should expect. Here's what the negotiation process is going to look like for this industry. Here's what A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I mean, just the depth of knowledge in each of the industries that the career services department has is absolutely staggering. Did that answer the question? Did I skip over anything?
No, I think it was perfect.
Okay.
I feel like so much of my role, and I think you alluded this, is helping students tell their story. And as career changers, it's not evident, it's not an A to B application process for all of our students. So even if you've been out of the job search for 16 years, or if you have only job searched in this one field, I think it's really important. And I think the best service that I can give our students is understanding your story and then charting that new path for that outcome that you're looking for. I loved our meetings, Robbie. I miss you. I wish that you were still a student. It was always fun working with you. Yuhong, so as someone who previously had a very like, how would I say this? A credential that having an architecture credential is not a small feat. It takes a lot of work and effort and additional schooling. You had this major credential going into your career search. What did that look like for you transitioning into your current role?
So I think for the job search, for the tech industry, the timing could be very important. So I feel like for either you're looking for internship or you're looking for a full-time job, that grab the time, take the timing. So like usually especially for large companies, they always have like a headcount for the next year. And for if you are applying for a job starting from next year, you probably will start like looking this summer. So during the summer, I guess before the summer, have your resume revised and have your projects, if you have some projects listed on the resume, have that polished and get ready for the recruiting season.
Yeah, for sure. When you were in your application process, Yuhong, do you mind telling us, when you were thinking about and applying to jobs and submitting all of your applications, how did you leverage your previous experience as an architect into your job now as a software engineer? How would you sort of talk about those two worlds when you were chatting with recruiters or hiring managers?
Oh, I see. So Emily helped me to prepare my resume. So on the resume, I have like usually people have like the horizontal layout. I have like a vertical layout. So 2/3 of the part is about my experience in MCIT, the projects I built, either it's in MCIT or some pet projects. And the other small 1/3 of the part is about my past experience, as like I'm working as an architect, what skills I learned from my past experience, whether it's a presentation or it's like a user experience focused experience. I talk about that. And when I talk to recruiters or people who come to interview me, I always bring up the past experience, and that will, I guess, that give other people the impression like you already have some work experience, and yeah, that some skills are still transferable, and bring that up during the interview.
Yeah, I think that it's so important for people to realize that everything they've done up into our program is still so valuable, and identifying these transferable skills, whether it's tech adjacent, tech direct, whatever it is, being able to communicate that to employers. We're not trying to hide your past. We're trying to show how enriching it was to you as a person and make sure that it's packaged and perfectly ready for an employer to understand, why is this person in my talent pipeline?
Yeah.
Iris, would you mind talking about your job search? What was it like as a career changer for you?
Yeah, so I did not start out thinking about career changing at the beginning. So I wanted to apply my learnings from MCIT to my work. I want to do like a bit more data science kind of stuff at my company because we dealt with so much data. But through the program, during the first project work that I did in MCIT, we were building like a little Java app that was calculating, we built it to calculate like environmental footprint of the food that you eat, which like through the process, I realized I really enjoy making software, like much more than I enjoy looking at numbers. So like, I think MCIT helped me to realize what kind of role I wanted to take on in the future. And so yeah, as to how I did it, I think it's really useful to network with other students and learn about what works and what doesn't for job hunts in this industry, because it's so different from my previous industry. And for me, initially, I was so overwhelmed with the idea of tech interviews because it's like a whole other course to me. Learning to pass tech interviews is very intense. And I find it useful to start job hunting maybe after at least you complete 4 core courses, because by then you would have a sufficiently good grasp on data structures, algorithms, which are like super important parts of tech interviews. And by then you would also have some projects that you could showcase on your resume, which helps to show that you have built something before, even though you have no prior professional software experience. And like you could also do projects in SPARC, like Emily mentioned, which is really helpful for your resume. And I think the actual like preparation for tech interviews, it took me about 2 to 3 months in total. What I did was I read about how other people did it. I bookmarked resources that were useful, like job portals like Handshake, etc., tech interview guides. And I'm not sure if you guys have heard of the famous book, the Cracking the Coding interview book. I also read that to help me understand what to expect from interviews, the structure of these interviews, what the interviewers are looking for, and to also like revise some concepts like the big O, like time efficiency, that sort of things. So there's a lot of resources from the career office, as we talked about, and there's also a lot of free resources online. The ones that I used a lot are Free Code Camp and Lead Code. Yeah, and I think one of the most important part is to make sure your resume looks good. Yeah, the shared drive that Emily created was super helpful. So I made sure to highlight the projects that I worked on my resume, like the big chunk of it was on the projects that I did. I would also provide GitHub links to the school project I worked on, those that we can share, because there are some that we are not supposed to be sharing. And also like the things that I did in my free time, like participating in data science competition, but then I was also teaching my coworkers how to write Python code. And also some of just to showcase my enthusiasm for using code to solve problems. And it makes your employers like seriously consider you for the potential you have for the role, not like your experience. And overall, I started applying to about 20 companies in my second last semester, 3 of which responded to my application, and they were Amazon, Electronic Arts, and Asana. So I ended up making to the final interviews for all 3 of them. But at the last stage, Amazon told me they had met their quota for entry-level hires, so they didn't move forward with me. And like what Yu Hong said, timing is important, and I didn't get the memo, so I applied at a bad time. But eventually, I got offers from EA. I got an offer from EA for a full-time position, and from Asana for like an apprenticeship position, kind of like an internship, but it's a longer program that they eventually want to convert you to a full-time position for. And I accepted the Asana one eventually. So I think truth be told, I couldn't believe I could land a job with these companies at that time. And when it happened, I was like, oh, wow, it actually could happen. Like with all the resources from MCIT, it's doable.
I think that you perfectly took advantage of everything. So what you just said, you want to show the employers the potential of your performance. That is so key. And you did that by taking advantage of all these resources, of making sure that you were preparing for technical interviews, but then also, like you said, connecting with students, really exposing yourself to what these doors can open for you. So thank you for sharing those details with us. I think it's so important. So last question for the panel is, go ahead and just feel free to answer as something comes to your head. Is there any advice that you have for the folks on this call? So these are all people who are considering applying to either the data science or MCIT program. Any advice that you have for folks who are on the fence or considering, is this right for me? You can talk about it from your career perspective or anything. What would you like to say to the folks on the call?
I think relevant, I don't know if it's necessarily advice so much as it is an encouragement of the program, but kind of echoing something that Iris was just talking about and something that I was mentioning earlier, the depth and the breadth of the course material in this program is something that I did not see anywhere else when I was looking around. There are other programs that have, that maybe have a similar breadth, but they're not taking the deep dive that MCIT is into each one of those. And a perfect example of that, I think, in one of my interviews, I got a really, really good question. One of the interviewers said, "What happens in the computer when you type in www.google.com and you hit enter? What happens? Go into as much detail as you can." And because of the experience and the knowledge that I had gained in the MCIT program, I was able to take that down to, how the characters you type in are translated into electric impulses. They were just looking for a discussion of the OSI model. They were just looking for a discussion of what does the, how is the data sent? Where does it go to? What happens there? I was able to take it down into the characters being translated into electric impulses, all of the different steps in between it. Anyway, it took me 7.5 minutes to answer the question. And at the end of it, at the end of that interview, they basically said, actually, it was about half an hour later. They said, "So we had a couple more interviews. We've canceled those. When can you start?" And I mean, that was pretty awesome. That was pretty awesome. But if you're on the fence about applying to it, first of all, what's the harm in applying? Second of all, the depth and the breadth of this program are just incredible. And if you are accepted, using your colleagues, using your classmates as a resource. That's one of the things that I really liked about the program too, is, compassion, kindness, friendliness, helpfulness. Those are things that are not just on paper. They're not just encouraged in this program. They're mandated. They're absolutely mandated. And that I really, really liked about the program as well. And so, as far as advice about applying, reach out to other alumni, send out that personal statement and say, what does this look like? Is this looking like what you were looking at, or what you submitted? That's the best I can think of right now.
Thank you. Iris, Yuhong, any thoughts?
Yeah, I can go. Yeah, I think MCIT has been really amazing for me. Like the biggest part is that it's catered for people who have busy schedules in their life, like a job. And I've seen some people with like kids at home, and yeah, and some of them are running big companies as well, and they're doing this on the side, which is amazing for me. You can do the program almost entirely async, and at the same time, you still feel a strong sense of connection with peers, the faculty, and a lot of support from the career office to kickstart my career in the tech industry. And the other best part of the program, in my opinion, is that you get to learn about a rapidly developing field from some of the best people in the industry, because Penn faculty is amazing. And it's clear that most of the professors love what they teach, and that enthusiasm is contagious. So oftentimes the schoolwork piles up, and once or twice I did feel like I was going to drown trying to juggle everything, like school, work, and life, because back then I also had just migrated to a different country. So there was a lot of like adjustment. Yeah. But there's always this element of excitement and fun that the lecturers bring to each class, and that kept me going. And I think I got infected by some of that at the end of the entire program. And now I always remind myself to really be curious about what I learned in my career, not just in school, because it's always really interesting to learn a little bit more about how the world works. Yeah, everywhere you go.
Lovely. That's lovely. Yeah, I do think that their passion is contagious. That's definitely true. Any final thoughts for us, Yuhong?
Yeah. So I guess if you are not sure if the technical computer science works for you or data science, if you're not sure, I guess the only way to find out and is to try to apply to the program and then try if it works for you. So before I joined the program, I have no idea. I have no decision that I want to change my career. I just know after I started to study all those and find out this works for me. So I guess it's never too late to join the program.
Oh, thank you. That's a good way to close this out. Well, Robbie, Yuhong, Iris, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your time with us today. We appreciate it so much. Before I send it back to Jackie, I was going to ask my colleague if they wouldn't mind just sending those links that I had covered. So we're going to chat the links to SPARC and our career outcomes. That way you can spend a little bit more time looking at those web pages directly through the chat. But thank you so much. And Jackie, back to you.
Great. That was awesome. Thank you all so much. It was great to hear all about your journey and what you were doing before and what you're doing now. So thank you so much. What I just want to do before we say goodbye, in case you have some questions once the webinar is over, just to kind of point you in the right direction. So if you have questions, the first place I would go would be our FAQ database. So please go onto our website. You can pretty much type any question into the search bar and hopefully you'll get the answer. We have a very, very extensive database there. Lots of your questions can be answered right there. If they're not, please email us. Here's our email address, online-learning@cs.upenn.edu. Please, by all means, email us. We do our best to get back to every email within 24 hours. If you haven't already, you can sign up for our mailing list. Also, office hours. We have office hours every day of the week. Please go to the events tab on the website. So at the very top of the website, go to events, click on that. You'll be able to find our office hours on there, but we do have office hours every day. We're happy to meet with you and answer your questions that way. It's a great way to get your questions answered. While you're on that events tab, we have lots of events still in the month of April, lots of coffee chats. Coffee chats are kind of like office hours it just exploded office hours. It's several prospective students join us. Everybody asks their questions. It's very informal. There's no formal presentations. What I love about coffee chats is you get to hear what other prospective students are asking. Sometimes you may not think of all the questions, so you get to hear what other prospective students are asking. So again, that's on our events tab. Please sign up for coffee chats if they meet your schedule. We talked about preparation and kind of trying it before you buy it. I think it was Yuhang that was mentioning that. So if you're interested in the MCIT program, there are 2 open courses, online open courses that you can sign up for. One is programming with Python and Java. The other one is computational thinking and problem solving. Those give you a great feel for what the MCIT program is all about. It might be a great way to start to see if the program's a good fit for you. So lots of different ways that you can get in touch and get your questions answered. Thank you all so much for joining us. Our panelists, thank you. Emily, thank you. We appreciate everyone being here. So have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye now. Thank you.